Hey guys, what's up? What's up? It's Sunday. How's everyone doing today? Welcome to Effed Up News of the Week for December 19th, 2021, our last Effed Up News of the Week before Christmas. I cannot believe it is almost Christmas. Where did this year go? This has been one hellfire hellscape of a year. Of course, we still have one more week left after Christmas too. And don't worry, I will absolutely be doing no, actually no we don't. Wait, hang on. Yes, the 31st, New Year's Eve. No, wait. I don't know how dates work. Never mind. 26. I will absolutely be doing Effed Up News the day after Christmas too. I don't know why I couldn't look at a calendar just then. I know that adds a lot to my credibility that I'm incapable of looking at a calendar and assessing a date. But no, I will be doing Effed Up News next week as well. It's the day after Christmas. Nothing happens the day after Christmas anyway. Why not? But we've got so much stuff to cover today, guys. If you've never been to Effed Up News before, this is a little stream that I do on Sundays where I cover some of the more fun stories of the week. Now, fun fact, in 2022, I'm going to start doing regular, I think, daily streams at 5 p.m., like every day except for Saturday. So Effed Up News is still going to stay on Sundays, and it's still going to be the more kind of like effed up, perturby stories of the week. But you want to lock in 5 p.m. on your calendars in 2022 because my new streaming schedule is going to be that I'm going to be going live at 5 during the week. I'm going to be doing interviews at 5. I'm going to be covering news stories at 5. I'm going to be chatting with you guys, talking about different things. So that's going to be the schedule for 2022. And Effed Up News is just kind of like the entry point into that. But don't worry, we're still gonna save our most fun stories for Sunday, and that's how we're gonna roll. But let's dig into it. And actually, before we even get started, guys, please make sure you mount that like button, of course, because we don't smash the like buttons. Only weakling cowards smash the like buttons. We mount the like button on this channel. We do it the right way. So please make sure you mount that like button. And as always, if you enjoy the work I'm doing, please make sure you join my Locals community. Now, Locals is free to join. You can go to kb.locals.com, bing, or it's down in the ticker, and join completely for free. And I will be doing an after party stream today in Locals. So right after Effed Up News, I anticipate it'll be around 6:30 Eastern time. Brent says 5, what time zone? Eastern time. Always Eastern time. I'm in New Hampshire. I only know one time zone, and that is Eastern. The rest of the time zones are a little bit confusing. But I will be doing an exclusive Locals after party stream today after Effed Up News. You can get that for free just by joining there. But if you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me independent, you want to be sure you can't become a member in my Locals. You can do that for $5 a month. You can do it for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can make a one-time gift. And what happens when you become a member in my Locals is you unlock all of the features in Locals. You're able to get access to our Zoom calls that we do twice a week. You're able to get access to our book club, to our crafting bitches, to the supporter-only Discord. So you get lots of cool stuff. I actually spend about 6 hours every single week on Zoom calls with my Locals. Much more intimate environment where we can actually talk to each other and behave like real live human beings and stuff like that. So please make sure you're a member of my Locals community. Locals is literally the thing that allows me to do what I do. Because YouTube ain't paying the bills. I'll tell you that right now. YouTube ain't paying the bills. But Locals does really help out. And so if you want to see me keep doing this, if you want to see me keep dedicating time to this, please make sure you show your support there so that I have the ability to do that. And that would be really awesome. All right, let's dig right into it. Now, breaking news of the week, or of the day, rather. Joe Manchin coming through clutch. Joe Manchin basically told the White House, I'm not going to vote for your Build Back Better, thing, White House. I'm not doing it, Biden. Now, this article from the Washington Times says it was a $1.75 trillion act. Rumor has it that the total cost of this Build Back Better thing was closer to like $5 trillion. Like an epic amount of money. And Joe Manchin just skewered this for the White House, made it impossible for them to pass it, and the White House is not happy. They're not happy at all. Let's read about what happened. The White House accused Joe Manchin of a double cross on President Biden's mammoth social welfare and climate change legislation. In a fiery statement, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki rebuked the West Virginia Democrat for making an inextricable reversal days after pledging support for the $1.75 trillion social welfare bill. On Tuesday of this week, Senator Manchin came to the White House and submitted to the president in person directly a written outline for the Build Back Better bill, and that was the same size and scope as the president's framework and covered many of the same priorities, Ms. Psaki says. Well, the framework was missing key priorities. We believed it could lead to an acceptable compromise to all. The statement was released to the public shortly after Mr. Manchin told Fox News Sunday he had struggled for months over whether to support the bill, but ultimately could not. I've always said this, but if I can't go home and explain to the people of West Virginia, I can't vote for it, said Mr. Manchin, and I can't vote for it to continue this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there. This is a no. And of course, if you guys have not been following along with the Democrat that has been happening since Joe Manchin came out and said he ain't voting for this bill, they're all complaining. They're all pissed off. But let's just be honest. Joe Manchin weren't never going to vote for this bill. He was never going to vote for it. He has been signaling for a while that he was never going to vote for it. Does anyone want to start a pool? Maybe we should do this in my locals. Does anyone want to start a pool about when Joe Manchin is going to leave the Democratic Party? Would it surprise anyone, if Joe Manchin left the Democratic Party? It wouldn't surprise me at all. There was a rumor he was going to leave like a month and a half ago. So I think we all need to send just a really rousing thank you to Joe Manchin. I really mean that. Can you imagine the pressure that he's under? When was the last? When did Joe Manchin get elected? Wasn't it this past election cycle? Wasn't Manchin up in this past election cycle? And so it's like he's got 6 years, man. Well, I guess not 5 years now, I suppose. If it was this election cycle, he's still got, regardless of whether it was this one or the last one, he's still got a ways to go. But it's like, can you imagine the pressure that this guy is under right now? I mean, thank God for Joe Manchin. Kristen Sinema sometimes comes in a clutch position. Joe Manchin is still apparently opposing getting rid of the filibuster too. Thank God we have Joe Manchin. Look, guys, I know that I want New Hampshire to secede from the Union. I do. But let's just be honest. That's a long-term strategy. That's not going to happen right away. And so in the meantime, I'm going to be extraordinarily grateful for people like Joe Manchin who, under what I can only assume is massive pressure, and he knows it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Dude, did you guys know that Joe Manchin has a houseboat? I like him even more. A houseboat. He literally had protesters outside of his houseboat. Do you think that he is unaware that that's going to get worse now? So thank God for people like him who stand up and do the right thing. There aren't enough people like that, and I would not be at all surprised if he ended up leaving the Democratic Party at some point. I'm not saying I think he's going to run right over to the Republicans or anything. I think he'd probably stick around in independent territory. But I mean, this took some balls, and he had to know how it was going to be received, and kudos to him for doing the right thing. So that's some good news to start us off, that we can feel good about that. You know what we can't feel good about? Concentration camps. You know, I went to a comedy show last night. I went to see Robbie the Fire Bernstein at the The Shell. Oh God, Dennis is going to kill me. At the Shell, which is one of the libertarian clubs in New Hampshire. I was gone for 3-4 hours max. I came out of that comedy show and all of a sudden New York is voting on concentration camps. What the hell? What the hell? This is in The National Pulse. New York legislation provides for indefinite detention of unvaccinated at the governor's whim. Yeah, Just T says, I had heard there were hot babes in the Australian camps. Somehow I don't think there's going to be hot babes in the New York camps. Let's read. In the next legislative session beginning January 5th, 2022, the New York State or Senate and Assembly could vote on a bill that would grant permission to remove and detain cases, contacts, carriers, or anyone suspected of presenting a significant threat to public health, and remove them from public life on an indefinite basis. Who is going to decide? By what criteria are we going to decide who presents a threat to public health? Does anyone want to take a guess about how this is going to be applied given everything else that New York has done? Bill A416 presents a serious risk to the basic liberties of all Americans in the state of New York, including their right to choose whether or not to receive medical treatment and vaccinations related to thus far undetermined contagious diseases. The bill gives the governor of New York, his or her delegates, including but not limited to the commissioner and heads of local health departments, the right to remove and detain any individuals or groups of people through issuing a single order. The orders only have to include the individual's name or reasonably specific descriptions of individuals or groups. What could possibly go wrong? The department can decide to hold a person or group of people in a medical facility or any other they deem appropriate. The language is purposefully vague. Isn't it great when legislatures pass extremely vague laws that can be interpreted in a variety of ways? Nothing could go wrong with this plan. Nothing at all. It's going to be fine. This is the United States of America, guys. I mean, for real. Sean C. And if you're the same Sean C. that's been defending me on Twitter, I want to say thank you, because you're right on the money if you are the same person. But it's for our protection. I have to believe at some point, even the sleepiest person is going to wake up and say, no more. Please let it be so. I mean, I have been saying since the beginning of this whole thing that the only way that people start speaking up and pushing back is if they start to experience absolutely insurmountable pain. And I really think that the reason that we don't see the big protests in America like we saw in London over the weekend, or like that we've seen in Australia or many other locations, I really think that part of the reason that we don't see them is because people here aren't experiencing enough pain yet. But people will only push back when they start experiencing a requisite amount of pain. And I hope we get there sooner rather than later. I don't want to see people experience pain, but we are almost 2 years in to 15 days to slow the spread. The lesson that we should learn from the very beginning, is that our biggest mistake was giving into 15 days to slow the spread in the first place. We never should have done it. We always should have known what would happen. We did it because the country's made up of good people and we didn't really know what was going on, and it was out of an abundance of caution and we agreed to it. But if we learn nothing else from the past 2 years, it's that we never should have given in to 15 days to slow the spread in the effing first place. We never should have given in to the idea that some people are essential and some people are not. We never should have given into the idea that some businesses are more important than others. We never should have given into the idea that people should be forced to stay in their house and to not lead their normal lives and exercise their basic liberties. We never should have given it into the first place. It was the biggest mistake of this entire thing. Awesome, Sean C. Thank you again for your defense on Twitter. And again, everything you've been saying, right on the money, man. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for speaking up. Dragonwater said, leftists love World German War II era leaders' tactics. Yep, they do. Well, it's all about authoritarianism. The thing about 15 days to slow the spread in this entire pandemic is it allowed people's inner authoritarians to come out and to shine. People who were inclined to be control freaks from the very beginning have really shined in the course of this pandemic. Let's read the rest of this article. Though the bill attempts to state that no one shall be held for more than 60 days, oh, how lenient of them. The language allows for court orders to waive the maximum detention time. After 60 days, the court is allowed an additional 90 days to consider the detention of an individual, a cycle that can last indefinitely per the opinion of the department. Boris says, I barely see your posts on Twitter. They shadow banned you. Oh, yeah, they did. Oh, I'm aware. I think it has to do with anytime you get a 12-hour ban, they basically make you not seeable for a while, and then Twitter kind of like goes back to normal. And so it's just like cyclical, man. Just, put alerts for my tweets if you don't want to, I sometimes tweet a lot, so just be aware of that. But maybe if you want to see my tweets, put alerts on, and that'll make sure that you see my tweets. As the language of the bill refers to, excuse me. Okay, we got to go back up here because this is actually a little bit important. It goes on to state that the bill will require an individual who has been exposed to or infected by a contagious disease to complete an appropriate prescribed course of treatment, preventative medicine, or vaccination. Isn't that convenient? Essentially giving the government the right to detain anyone they want and forcibly vaccinate them. As the language of the bill refers to individuals or groups who potentially pose a threat, the bill is a preemptive strike against anyone the department believes has the capacity to pose a threat in the future, such as refusing to receive a COVID-19 vaccination. So, great. Awesome. Awesome. The blue states are going one by one. California's fallen. New York's fallen. They're all falling. Thank God I live in New Hampshire where, hopefully we won't be building camps anytime soon. I think the libertarians would have an issue with that. But, there is another problem, as there always is. We have the schools. The schools, basically like, prisons, if we're honest about it. Basically like the prisons. I did find this tweet from Deb Philman. From NPR, apparently, some of the largest U.S. school districts are seeing declining enrollment for the second straight year. Gee, I wonder why. This is our moment of hope before we're going to dip into the horror that is the public school. But this is a moment of hope. We'll do this. We'll do it a nice, white pill at the top. Public school enrollment is declining. Not insignificantly. Look at this. New York down 38,000 students in 2020, down another 13,000 in 2021. Los Angeles down 17,000 students in 2020, nearly 9,000 in 2021. Chicago 14,000 students 2020, 10,000 more in 2021. I know in New Hampshire they've been consolidating public high schools. So that's really good, and I can't possibly imagine why that might be happening. I can't possibly imagine why people might be pulling their children out of public schools when the public schools are bringing segregation back. Yay! Segregation is back in business. Super chat from Nick H. Thank you, Nick. From the language, they can lock anyone up deemed a public threat to include gun ownership. World is slowly being turned into monsters. Yep, we have our Karens that are coming out. But yeah, as reported by Chris Rufo, Denver public schools are now promoting racially segregated playtime for equity. For equity. Segregation in the name of equity. Dragonwater says Oregon has eliminated graduation requirements for high school in the name of equity. Yeah, state of California. The state of California has eliminated the grades of D and F, or is planning to eliminate them. I'm not sure if they've actually done it yet. Planning to eliminate the grades of D and F in the name of equity. So C will be the lowest. I used to be a college admissions counselor. And my favorite, this was like right after college. My first job right after college was I was a college admissions counselor, which is actually kind of a great job when you just graduate from college. But so I was the one reviewing like all the college applications, and my favorites were from the military schools, because the schools like on the military bases legitimately had E for effort. They were the only schools that had a grade of E for effort. So it was like, you failed, but it was like, you tried, I guess. So they literally had E for effort as a grade. I feel like this is really kind of going back to Definitely. E for effort. E for effort. You can only get an A, B, and C. Can't even fail anymore. Basically, they're just giving everyone an E for effort, and then some people put in more effort than others. But we had a statement here on the racially segregated playground. Denver Public Schools' Scott Pribble, he, him, his, has confirmed Centennial Elementary racially segregated playground program, which he claims creates a space of belonging and are about uniting and not dividing. Now, Scott, who is the media relations manager with pronouns in bio, says Denver Public Schools remains committed to fostering, cultivating, and preserving a culture of inclusion and belonging where our students, families, and team members are safe and welcome. We are here to meet the needs of all families and students. The school leaders at Centennial received a specific request from families to create a space of belonging. Centennial was responsive to that request. We support efforts like this as they provide connections, support, and inspiration for families which share similar experiences and come from similar backgrounds. Efforts like this are about uniting us, not dividing us. Now, let's just keep in mind that segregation is actually literally about dividing people. That's what segregation is. Literally about dividing people, not dividing people based on similar life experiences, unless you assume that all Black people have the same life experience and all white people have the same life experience, which sounds kind of racist to me. Segregation is literally about division. But, I can't imagine why people would be leaving the public schools in droves when we're bringing segregation back into elementary schools. But you know what? Maybe it's just the teachers. Maybe it's just the teachers. Maybe it's just the teachers being all just really burnt out. And those poor teachers, they're just abused by the parents. It's really the parents that are the problem. It's not the teachers that are the problem. It's the parents that are the problem. This, an op-ed from The Guardian. Teachers all over the U.S. are burnt out, but parents' compassion has gone. 2 weeks out from Christmas break and across the U.S., the annual note from the school PTA reaches parents. It's time to recognize the year's efforts by teachers through contributions to the holiday fund. It's a solicitation that goes out every year, but this year's wording is peculiar. The past 12 months have been terrible, period. But particularly terrible for those working in schools. Please dig deep, we are advised. Those are uniquely difficult times. It's not only a whip around, but an invitation for thanks and praise that in these endless waning days of the pandemic, we're not waning. We've been doing this for 2 years. I digress. Seems to belong to an earlier time. If we were frightened in 2020, there was also a sense of readjustment, much discussed about what we owed to one another. There was a warm glow of mutual responsibility. Those taken for granted were lauded and rewarded. It didn't, basically, blah, 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 warm, fuzzy gratitude. Over the past year, gratuities winnowed back to 20% and griping about school scheduled resurfaced. Oh no, the parents are mad again. What's curious, perhaps, isn't the return to business as usual, but a divisive swing from valorizing certain groups to effectively demonizing them. What happened in 2020 is parents, for probably the first time for many of them, got to see exactly what the teachers were teaching their kids because it was homeschool. And they got to look over their shoulder and watch on the Zoom and see all the crazy stuff they're teaching their kids. And then parents started to get pissed to be like, what the hell are you teaching my kids? This is not what happened when I was in school. So it's not as though the teachers were just the heroes in 2020. And then for no apparent reason, parents got upset. Parents got upset because they actually saw what the teachers were teaching their kids. That's what happened. Guardian. Last month, in some school districts in the U.S., school closures were announced not as responses to rising COVID numbers, but to accommodate teacher burnout. Teachers don't work the full year. I'm just going to remind everyone that has a job for which you are required to work all 12 months of the year. These teachers are getting burned out. Many of them barely working. I am sorry. Teachers got. Do you guys remember back when teachers were refusing to go back to work in person at school? It was in Chicago specifically. Chicago teachers refused to go back and work at school in person. They were like, "No, it's too dangerous. We can't possibly leave our houses." And then they found out that one of the teachers that was like, "No, we can't possibly go back to school in person," was like vacationing in Puerto Rico. They're so effing lazy. I'm sorry. They are not all teachers, but some. Mandatory Carrie, thank you for that super chat. I appreciate it. There are good teachers. I do want to confirm there are still good teachers. I don't want to demonize every single teacher out there, but a lot of them are effing lazy. Detroit Public Schools decided that until the end of the year, they would close their classrooms every Friday and revert to online learning. Oh, that must be nice. It must be nice to sit at home every Friday for these teachers. In Florida, the school holidays were extended. And then, seemingly on a dime, the mantra, teachers are great, flipped to teachers don't want to work. People were furious. Gee, I wonder why. Part of this dynamic is just basic energy flow. It's a feature of burnout that, while one's own is deeply felt and definitely real, other people are most faking it, dude. I'm going to be honest. I have taught entire classes about how to get rid of burnout. I understand burnout intimately. It's something I've done a lot of work in. These teachers are burning themselves out. There are any number of things that these teachers could do that don't involve taking Fridays off and not even bothering to come into school so they can work virtually. There's any number of these things that these teachers can do to avoid getting burnout. Part of the problem is that most of them are little activists, that they work themselves up all day, every day. And so all of a sudden they have burnout. Well, guess what? You're pissed off all the time. You're always looking at things you don't like in the world. You're always pissed off. The number one thing I tell people to do when they're dealing with burnout is to stop watching the news. Stop watching for 30 days and you will feel 1,000 times better. I know the people in the chat probably aren't going to stop watching the news. I get it. You guys are junkies. I'm a junkie too, like whatever. But really, if you're dealing with burnout, one of the easiest things you can do is to stop watching the news, stop getting pissed off all the time because the news is just all about pissing you off. And then you're going to feel a whole lot better. You're going to have a whole lot more energy. And we all know that a lot of teachers are activists. Well, that's why they're getting burnt out. They're pissed off all the time. There's a question of association too. For a lot of people, school functionality is the single biggest barometer of where we are in the pandemic. No, I don't base my opinion of where we are in the pandemic on how teachers feel on any given day. Sorry. Park closure, teacher burnout, even solicitations for gratitude interfere with the sense that we are on the other side of things. No one wants to be reminded of the awful days of 2020, blah, blah, blah. According to the teachers' unions in the US, reverting to a partly remote leaning schedule is an effort to keep teachers from resigning. Let them quit. If teachers don't want to work, let them quit and go do another job. I think that's best case scenario. What you hear from teachers is that it's been too much. Randi Weingarten, president of the teachers union, told the New York Times. We're going to talk more about Randi in a second. And they're trying the best they can. It's an appeal to reason that will get you precisely nowhere with parents forced to scramble for childcare if their kid's school suddenly shuts down every Friday. Can you blame them? Really, I mean, for a lot of parents, the only benefit the public school has is its daycare. Let's just be honest. That's the benefit that the public school has. It's daycare. Even without the practical implications of partial school closures or indefinite mask mandates when all school-age kids in the United States are vaccine eligible, there is an emotional need served by pivoting to trashing those laterally admired. Were teachers ever really admired? Or was it one of those things where teachers thought they were admired and the unsung heroes of society? I guess kind of like all first responders at the beginning of the pandemic. Well, I wouldn't even put like, you can't even put teachers in that category. Teachers were teaching from home. It's not like they were working in the grocery line at a supermarket or in a hospital or something. Like, were teachers ever really that admired, or were they just pumping themselves up to think that they were the heroes of the world? At this point, all that stands between us and the world as it was as 2019 is apparently a large dose of common sense and the extortion to back that up. Well, yeah, in theory, to think otherwise, to consider we're all in the same boat, burnout, fed up, and incapable of returning to anything else is simply too dismal a possibility to allow. So they're going to have us believe that the reason that teachers suck like they've never sucked before is they're just burnt out. That's all it is. Burnout, mean parents, angry parents, parents who expect too much. Oh, it's so tough to be a teacher. We have to take Fridays off. Please. I'm sorry. Like, there are many harder jobs than being a teacher. I no longer have any sympathy for these people. I really don't. Even the good ones, to be honest. Like, and I know the good ones, like, I always feel a little bit bad that, like, the good teachers get lumped in with the bad teachers. But come on, man. Your jobs are not the hardest in the world, and you got to stay home all throughout 2020, and you had job security, which is more than a lot of people got to say. And maybe if teachers took care of themselves better, stopped being little activists, stopped living in outrage all the time, maybe they'd feel a little bit better. I'm just saying. Mm. But, that's not the only thing we got. Let's talk about Randi Weingarten. This op-ed in the New York Times, we desperately need schools to get back to normal, and then a picture of Randi looking dashingly off into the distance. Now, Corey DeAngelis, pointed this out. Corey DeAngelis, by the way, shout out to Corey DeAngelis. If you have not read the New York Post, we're not going to read this, but I just wanted to point this out. If you have not read the New York Post profile on Corey DeAngelis, please check it out. Corey is he is the real deal. He is the genuine deal. And I'm so glad he got to have this feature on him in the New York Post. He is so focused and so passionate on this issue. He's also just honestly one of the nicest guys in the world. So definitely shout out to Corey DeAngelis. Congratulations on this profile in the New York Post. And make sure you guys are following Corey on Twitter because he tweets about this stuff all the time. Exclusively. He doesn't do my Twitter. My Twitter is a haphazard hodgepodge of everything I'm pissed off about in the world. No, Corey DeAngelis is focused. He has a mission. And one of the things he tweeted about is they have changed the headline of this story 3 times. Check this out. So this is where the headline started. Hang on. This is where the headline started. Can this woman save American public education? This woman to mean Randi Weingarten. And then they changed it to, what will it take to get schools back to normal? And then we finally settled on what we have today, which is we desperately need schools to get back to normal. How great is that? I love it. Let's see. Sean C. says, I had teachers I admired, but they were the ones who pushed us to do research on our own, to not just believe what we were told, to think critically. Yeah, man, I did too. Although I've started thinking about the teachers that I've had, in elementary school, the ones I remember anyway. And some of them, I kind of look back on it and I'm like, you were a bunch of sketchy bastards. You had moments where you were good, or maybe I thought I should admire you. I don't know if I would feel the same way if I could go back and watch my life at that time, if I would feel the same way about the teachers. Janice Zeal. Hi, Janice. Carlin, I wanted to be a Prada ND needs me. I'm not sure what that means, Janice, but I hope you're well and thank you for coming. All right, let's read this op-ed about Randi Weingarten and apparently why she will save us all by Michelle Goldberg, who probably isn't the best person in the world to talk about this, but okay, whatever. The parents were talking about the pandemic schooling, so unsurprisingly, the conversation quickly turned to emotional devastation. It was a Wednesday night in December, and Randi Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, was sitting in a living room in a giant suburban house in Mason, Ohio, for what was billed as a stressed-out parents' strategy session. The crowd of about a dozen or so people, most of them women, was a friendly one. The event had been organized by Katie Paris, founder of the resistance group called Red, Wine, and Blue that mobilizes suburban women. No one there seemed mad at teachers' unions, and a few were teachers themselves. They weren't upset at schools for closing too long because they had opened relatively quickly. But they did want to talk about the anguish of the previous year and the damage done by even a few months of what's euphemistically called remote learning. Elisa DeLeon had two kids in an affluent local school district, but worked as a bilingual school liaison in a much poorer one where many children didn't have internet at home or a quiet place to work. I see kids going from straight A's to all F's, she said, adding that many of our students wanted to leave school altogether. How could that possibly be? How could it possibly be that formerly straight A children would all of a sudden be getting F's? Could it be that were forced into remote effing learning for an entire year? This year, she argued, has been better than the last, but the mental health toll has been grueling. She said it seemed as if she was referring to 2 students a week for treatment for depression, even though the school only has one therapist. Guys, so I saw a stat. It was also on Corey's Twitter account, and I'm not going to quote it directly because I don't remember it exactly, but the city of Los Angeles had an absurd increase in cost per student in school. It was something like, I want to say it was like a 30% increase in cost per public school student from last year to this year. And you know what that increase was from? Psychologists. It wasn't about spending per student. It was an increase in what the schools were spending on psychologists for the students because, presumably, of the increase in mental health issues among students. Now, I have concerns about this on several different levels, if I'm honest about it. One of those concerns is, are the schools causing the mental health problems among the students? Another concern is, are schools practicing psychology on students without telling the parents? But the biggest concern I have is we are headed for a mental health crisis, the likes of which we have not seen in our lifetimes in this country. And it's going to impact all age groups, but it will absolutely 100% impact the youngest generation the worst, especially those that are really young. And it's pretty much all been avoidable. And it's pretty much all going to be caused explicitly by Randi Weingarten and the teachers' unions and their actions throughout the course of the entire pandemic. Joy Bennett, a 45-year-old who owns a marketing agency, said that one of her children was supposed to graduate from high school this year had dropped out. Another had managed to eke out D's with intensive tutoring. I know that's just me wreaking privilege. We could afford a tutor, she said. She's actually saying that they were privileged, that they had to hire a private tutor, and the result of that was a D. One of her children, she didn't say which one, attempted that S word that I'm not going to say in January and was hospitalized for 8 days. High school has been terrible for my older ones, she said. I've got an 8th grader now. Should we try it again, or should I look for something else? Nat D says they're causing kids to get DID and BPD. Yes, they are. Yeah, they are. And just watch out, because the emotion, like even stuff that's more basic than that, they're even the most basic stuff like self-esteem, confidence, being able to talk to one another, social interaction. We don't even need to get up to borderline personality disorder. That's the most severe. Well, one of the most severe, not the most, I guess. But even the basic stuff is going to have a dramatic impact because it's going to be so prevalent and so widespread. I don't know how we're going to fix this problem ever. The conversation began around 7 p.m., but was supposed to last an hour. But at 10 p.m., it was still going on. It looped around to many different subjects, including school funding formulas, privatization schemes, critical race theory, and school board races. Neither Weingarten nor I had dinner first. Oh my God, they didn't have dinner. But by the end, I was drained and starving. But she seemed in no hurry to leave. Oh my God, Randi is just so committed that she skipped dinner to talk about the mental health of students. That's how committed Randi is. Dragonwater said, high school has always been hell, and I had a pretty good teacher. Yep. I wouldn't go back to, you cannot pay me enough to go back to high school. I'll tell you what. Later, Weingarten debriefed her staff about the meeting by phone. You heard both the pain and the reality of what COVID has done to their lives, she said. Weingarten referred to the advisory on youth mental health that the Surgeon General released that week. You heard it in that room. People were really honest about kids' depression. It's like no one could have predicted this would happen. She added, clearly, there are not just pockets, but people all over the country who feel that way. A former social studies teacher who was elected in 2008 to head the AFT, Weingarten is by far the country's most prominent teachers unionist. And when there is anger at public schools, it's often directed at her because she effing deserves it. Said Senator Tom Cotton on Fox News, Randi Weingarten does not even have children of her own. What the hell does she know about raising and teaching kids? In fact, that's probably why she was perfectly fine to shut down schools for 2 years and force kids to wear masks because she didn't have to deal with it at home. And of course, look what Michelle Goldberg calls it. He says, oh, Tom Cotton's just being homophobic because Randi Weingarten doesn't have kids. I'm sorry. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't lesbians capable of producing children? Do they not have the equipment if they so choose? Michelle? Was Randi Weingarten at one point in her life capable of having children, no matter what her sexuality was? That's just bizarre. Leaving aside Cotton's vaguely homophobic diversion of Weingarten's family life, she is a step-parent to a child of her wife, Sharon, a rabbi. Cotton's attack showed how, for the right, Weingarten has come to personify school closures and COVID restrictions. If your child didn't attend school regularly last year, Randi Weingarten is likely the reason why. Yes, that's true. Called her the Wicked Witch of unnecessary school closings. But those whose fault Weingarten for closed schools misunderstand the role she's played over the past 20 months. Rather than championing shutdowns, she spent much of her energy, both in public and behind the scenes, trying to get schools open. Bullshit. No, that is wrong. And she's been trying, sometimes uncomfortably, to act as a mediator between desperate parents grieving their kids' uninterrupted education and beleaguered teachers who feel they've been blamed for a calamity they didn't create. Randi is such a martyr. She is a martyr to the cause. It's such a weird place for me to be in because normally I'm a fighter. I care passionately about these things, but I fight for things or fight against things, she said. But now we have to calm the waters. We have to meet people where they are. People are tense and people are stressed out, and we're not actually going to help kids succeed unless we make an environment safe and welcoming, and you're not going to make that environment safe and welcoming when you're screaming at each other. You know what happened? Does anyone want to guess what happened to get Randi Weingarten to say, okay, guys, we got to calm the waters. We got to come together. We got to start talking about this. Does anyone want to know when Randi Weingarten specifically started using that language? It was recently. What happened to cause Randi Weingarten to say, we need to start calming the waters? I'm going to look for your answers in the chat. In the meantime, as I'm waiting for those to come in, please make sure you mount that like button. And just so you guys know, I am also streaming right now on both Odyssey and Rockfin and even Facebook. So just checking in the chats there. What do you guys think happened to cause Randi Weingarten to change her tune? Any ideas? I'll give you a hint. It happened last month. Someone lost a governor's race. Someone lost a governor's race. Yes! Andrea L., the Virginia election. That's exactly right. Randi Weingarten, up until literally the day before the election, in Virginia, she was campaigning for Terry McAuliffe in Virginia. And then when they lost, Randi Weingarten immediately is like, okay, let's calm the waters. Changed her tune completely like the day after the effing election. Beyond the immediate well-being of families and teachers, the future of public education as we know it is at stake. Not long ago, the movement to shift government funds from public schools to non-unionized charters, private schools, and homeschooling seemed thoroughly defeated. But the movement has been revived through the pandemic. Oh no! Oh no! You mean that school choice is making a comeback? Partly because of the great work of Corey DeAngelis. This month, Michelle Bloomberg announced that his philanthropy would donate $750 million to create 150,000 seats in charter schools. Wow. American public education is broken, he wrote in the Wall Street Journal. Since the pandemic began, students have experienced severe learning loss because schools remained closed in 2020 and even 2021 when vaccinations were available to teachers and it was clear schools could reopen safely. Many schools also failed to administer remote learning adequately. Even if you disagree with his prescription, the diagnosis is hard to argue with. That's awesome. I hadn't heard that. $750 million, man, for 150,000 seats in charter schools. Holy shit. When Weingarten became ATF's president, Ravitch told her it was her job to save public education in America. That job has rarely been tougher or more urgent than it is right now. Let's see. We're not going to read this whole thing, but basically, the New York Times is like maybe essentially like pleading, but also trying to prop Randi Weingarten up, saying Randi Weingarten can save us all. Dude, Randi Weingarten is the reason that one of many reasons why we're in this mess in the first place. What Randi Weingarten should have done is to come out with strong language encouraging all teachers across the country to get their asses back in the public school classrooms at the beginning. They played politics with this issue. The reason the schools are in the state that they are in is because the teachers' unions played politics with this issue all throughout 2020 in order to win an election. That's why we're in the position that they're in. The teachers refused to go back to school. Randi Weingarten supported them. Even throughout 2021, even then the teachers were like, meh, don't really want to, don't feel safe. Randi Weingarten has never come out and had a strong statement to say, get your asses back in school. We are creating catastrophic learning losses for the students. Because they don't really care about the students. It's always been about politics. That's all it was. And after the 2020 election, when the Democrats controlled everything, everyone feels emboldened. People are like, I can stay on vacation in Puerto Rico. It's cool. And the only reason they're changing their tune now is because of this and because of this guy right here and because people are dramatic and because of the election in Virginia. That's it. That's it. Moving on. I feel like I need to prep this next section just with this reminder from 5 Times August, who's just one of my favorite people in the world. He's a singer-songwriter. He's creating amazing, amazing music. Also, just like honestly, one of the nicest guys in the world. I got to hang out with him at a what was that? I think it was AmpFest. Oh my God, AmpFest. I confusing my conferences. I got to hang out with him at AmpFest in Florida a couple months ago. Nicest guy in the world. Please make sure you subscribe to his channel. Follow him because just the music he puts out is really cool. He's trying to change culture by influencing it, and I think it's one of the coolest things, and his videos are really cool, and I just think he's the best. But he tweeted out this meme earlier, and I think it's just a good reminder before we get into this section. Now, of course, anytime we're talking about vaccinations or COVID or anything, I have to direct you all to go to the CDC. The CDC is your God. I am just an unknowing peon. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not a doctor. Don't listen to me at all. But Joe Biden at the July 2021 town hall on CNN says, you're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. From the president's mouth. Joe Biden said it. You're not going to get COVID if you have the vaccinations. Well, let's read about that a little bit. Dragon Water also reminds everyone to mount that like button. Thank you, Dragon Water. Let's talk about that. Because, Randi's doing all her work. And yet still, even with Randi Weingarten diligently doing God knows whatever Randi Weingarten does, it's happening again. Schools are going remote because of COVID. Didn't they say that if we just got a certain percentage of the population vaccinated and, we just made you have your kids vaccinated, and Joe Biden assured us if you have the vaccinations, you're not going to get COVID. Why are we in this mess again? I mean, I'm just trusting the science and what Joe Biden says. Why are we in this mess again? This is from today, but it's being posted on Yahoo News. As confirmed, COVID-19 cases continue to increase across the country due to the Delta and Omicron variants. An increasing number of schools and school districts are closing ahead of their holiday breaks, making many parents fear that another round of remote learning is here. Currently, a total of 877 classrooms in New York public school districts have closed. Their students transitioned to at home e learning due to confirmed COVID 19 cases. The number is more than triple the number of classes that suspended in person learning a month ago. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny that in the state that is literally considering concentration camps, that has vaccine passports, that has some of the tightest restrictions in all the country, why are they having so many cases? Why is this necessary? On Wednesday, Oxford School District in Maine announced it would close Otisfield Community School about 35 miles north of Portland and transition teachers and students to remote learning for at least the rest of the week after the in-school transmission rate hit 70%. In upstate New York, near the Canadian border, the Oswego City School District transitioned to fully remote learning after 60 cases of COVID 19 were confirmed in 1 week, and at least 75 people were asked to quarantine, with more pending. The district plans for teachers and students to remain remote until December 23rd when they break for the holidays and return to in person following the break. So, looks like remote learning days might be back, but I'm sure Randi is on it because, as the New York Times says, we desperately need schools to get back normal. Or was it that, hang on, or was it that this is the woman that will save American education? Or was it that, what will it take to get schools back to normal? Who really knows? But, that's not the only vaccine-related story I have. I have a critically important story. And remember, Joe Biden told us in July, after he campaigned all last year saying, I've got a plan to end the pandemic. You guys remember this? One of Joe Biden's basic campaign pledges was, I've got a plan to end the pandemic. Donald Trump does not have a plan. I have a plan. Joe Biden, what is the plan? I have a plan. Never said what the plan was. And then in July tells us, well, I'm going to even rewind back to February. He was like, if you guys are really good, you can all have a barbecue in July. And then July comes around. He's like, if you get these vaccinations, you're not going to get COVID. And now we have schools, probably closing again. But you know what the real question is? You guys ready for it? When can pets get the COVID-19 vaccine? Has anyone in the chat just been desperate for your pets to get the COVID-19 vaccine, which I'm sure works because the CDC is our God and the CDC assures us that they're all safe. I'm vaccinated, man. I didn't have any crazy side effects. I'm good. My vision got a little weird for a couple days, but it went back to normal. It's fine. Is anyone dying to get their pets vaccinated against COVID-19? My dog is a little bit of a bastard, but I'm not sure this is necessary. Let's read. They're man's best friend or good acquaintance if we're talking about a cat. And they might stick like glue to your side while you recover from the worst illness, including COVID-19. But research throughout the pandemic has shown that pets and other animals can catch the coronavirus, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. More than 15 species of animal, including domestic pets and wild animals, have contracted COVID-19. So will your dog or cat be able to get the COVID vaccine? No, Julie, this is real. This is real. I swear this is absolutely real. Yep. Don't hold your breath. Oh, good. Good news. Simply put, pets are unlikely to get severely sick from the coronavirus and also unlikely to pass COVID-19 to humans, according to the FDA and U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. The risk of animals spreading COVID to humans is low. And domestic pets don't live in zoos where many animals have been given experimental COVID-19 vaccines. I'm going to say that again. In zoos, they are giving animals experimental COVID-19 vaccines. Yes, all dogs are I think all cats are bastards. All cats are bastards is the perfect. It fits the acronym, dude. Don't change that to dogs. Don't put that on dogs. Dogs are awesome. Cats are way worse than dogs. This is a dog-friendly channel. I don't know about you cat people. Mount the like button if you're a dog owner. I guess if you're any pet owner. Okay, I'm just kidding. I don't discriminate. Even if you're a cat person, you're still welcome, I guess. And let's see. The virus is also more likely to make some animals sick than others. A vaccine is quite unlikely, I think, for dogs and cats, said Dr. Will Sander, an assistant professor of Department Veterinary, blah, 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 blah. The risk of disease, spread, and illness in pets is so low that any vaccine would not be worth giving. But what about minks? Minks. How random is that? Chad, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I live in the real world. I worry about soil condition matrices and not being buried alive, the biological hazards in a dentist vacuum line. Oh my god. Yeah, where is PETA? Like the moment that PETA could actually do something good. Where is PETA in all this? I knew what you meant, Liberty Lion. I got you. I knew what you meant. At the end of 2020, Denmark's governor ordered millions of minks to be killed over the revelations that animals were catching COVID-19 from mink farmers and transmitting them to human. What is wrong with people? The phenomenon of mink to human spread of COVID-19 has been reported in Denmark, the Netherlands, Poland, and possibly the US, according to the CDC. According to the Fur Commission USA, there are over 275 mink farms in 23 states in the US. At such farms, the animals are bred and killed for their pelts and other bodily parts for use in clothing, cosmetics, and other materials. What is wrong with people? Why would you kill a mink? Well, I understand for like the coats and things. I get it, but like I just have to like it. Look at that thing. It's so nice. It reminds me of my ferrets. Did anyone have ferrets? I had 2 ferrets. Their names were Monkey and Scampy. I named the first one Monkey because I like the idea of an animal being named a different name of a name of a different animal. I just think it's funny. But look at them. I mean, come on, man. Like, why? They're not causing anyone trouble. In response, animal vaccine makers started working on shots for minks, the New York Times reported. The pharmaceutical company, which had been working on vaccines for dogs and cats in 2020, said in January that it shifted its focus to minks and that it's not uncommon to adopt vaccines for experimental use in other species. People have too much time on their hands, man. The USDA is only accepting applications for animals for COVID-19 vaccines for minks. Other animals, like zoo animals, can only get a vaccine on a case-by-case basis in the USDA and state veterinarian approval. Wisconsin Public Radio reported in July 2021 that the state's Department of Agriculture Trade Commission Protection approved the vaccine for minks in May. So how can I get my pet protection from COVID-19? Pets getting COVID-19 is uncommon. The FDA reports a very small number of pets around the world will test positive for COVID. If your dog or cat gets sick, they may have human-like symptoms of COVID-19, including fever, cough, difficulty breathing, running nose, sneezing, diarrhea, and vomiting, according to the CDC. And as we all know, the CDC is our god. Because the coronavirus causes COVID-19 spread to pets during close contact, avoid kissing your dog, petting, snuggling, or sleeping in the same bed as your pet if you're sick with COVID. F that, dude. If I get sick with COVID and I'm really sick, my dog's sitting beside me. I'm going to use it for comfort. I don't even care. Dog gets sick, we can keep each other company. It'll be fine. How not to protect your pet from COVID-19. Oh, thank God they said this. Do not put a mask on your dog or cat, says the CDC. True story. Right after one of the walkaway rallies, I think it was in Chicago. I'm pretty sure it was the one in Chicago. And this was back like, I want to say like last September, something like that. I was going home I was at the airport in Chicago, and I walked by and I legitimately at the airport saw a dog wearing a mask. And I texted like the walkaway group chat, and I was like, "You're not gonna fucking believe what I just saw at the airport. A dog was wearing a mask." And they were like, "Carlin, that's a muzzle. That's not a mask. Like you're making stuff up." I'm like, "No, I saw a dog wearing a mask. It was real." And now the CDC confirms, do not put a mask on your dog. So YouTube, I don't want any grief. I'm reporting what the CDC is saying, and the CDC is saying, do not put a mask on your dog. Oh my God, people have lost their minds. But to transition over to a new topic, guys, if you're enjoying the show so far, we're about an hour into it. Please mount that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, now is as good a day as any. I do these every Sunday at 5 p.m. We do Effed Up News of the Week. I'm going to start streaming regularly at 5 p.m. every day of the week, except for Saturdays, because I need a vacation sometimes, right? But please mark your calendar. In 2022, I'm going to be streaming at 5 o'clock Eastern Time daily during the week, and of course doing Effed Up News on Sunday. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. We're going to wrap up this week with some J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling got in trouble again this week. The Independent's not happy with her. J.K. Rowling keeps tweeting, and we keep wondering why. Rowling seems to imagine a world in which trans women are privileged predators working with a compliant police force to assault innocent cis women. In fact, trans women are a small, marginalized, vulnerable minority who face terrifying sexual violence from the police who are supposed to help them. So we get that article on J.K. Rowling, but, really, you want to know the one I really want to look at? I want to look at the one Vice wrote. Because the thing of it is J.K. Rowling tweeted again this week. A week ago. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. The penis individual who raped you is a woman. This is what she's getting in trouble for. Again. Because she's got fuck you money. Now, I do want to say this. People think that J.K. Rowling is able to speak out because she has fuck you money. You don't need fuck you money to speak out, but I do love that she is speaking out because she can. And she's not going to stop, and every time she speaks out, people get upset. So we're going to read this article from Vice, because I think that Vice is going to be more entertaining than The Independent. J.K. Rowling just won't stop attacking trans people online. Rowling's latest comment ignores the devastatingly high level of violence perpetuated against trans people. J.K. Rowling is apparently still fixated on portraying transgendered women as predators. Listen, guys, so I got called transphobic for the first time in a while on Twitter the other day. I just want to say at the top, I don't care if you're trans. Don't care if you're non-binary. Live your best life, man. I'll use whatever pronouns you want me to use, as long as I don't think you're using it for a power play of some sort. Normally, I don't care. I believe in respect. I believe that you offer basic respect and courtesy to others if you want them to offer basic respect and courtesy to you. So I don't really care what your sexual or your gender identity is, or any of your identities. Not my business, man. But I also support J.K. Rowling's right to say whatever the heck she wants. In a tweet on Sunday, the Harry Potter author attacked reporting that police in Scotland would record the R word as being committed by a woman if the assailant identifies as female. War is peace, freedom to say. We already read this. The comment is only the latest in a string of efforts by the once beloved author to amplify a narrative that's not only essentially false, but ignores the devastatingly high level of violence experienced by trans people. In June 2020, Rowling published a 3,700-word essay about what she fears around what she called the new trans activism, accusing trans people of pushing to erode the legal definition of sex and replace it with gender. This essay quickly sparked accusations that Rowling was a TERF, or a trans-exclusive radical feminist. As Rowling drew on her own experiences as an assault survivor to suggest that trans women are a threat to cisgendered women. I don't think that she's arguing that trans women are a sexual threat to cisgendered women. I think she's making a completely different point. Yeah, I love Rosa Dawn and Buck Angel. Buck Angel is the best, man. Buck Angel's the best. In the year plus since, Rowling has sporadically implied that trans people and those who advocate for their rights are dangerous. Well, that's not an exaggeration or hyperbole, is it, Vice? But Rowling's narrative that trans people are somehow perpetuating an Orwellian takeover is misleading on multiple fronts. It obscures the fact that it's cis men, not trans women, who regularly commit assault. While I'm pretty sure that J.K. Rowling would have equal problem with a cis man assaulting a woman as they would a trans man or trans woman, excuse me, trans woman assaulting a woman. Only a fraction of a percent of US adults identify as transgendered, yet almost 1 in 5 women have experienced or completed or attempted R word, according to the CDC. People will say from one side of their mouths that trans women are an incredibly small part of the population, but that the world shouldn't bend to their desires. But will then say that we are so influential and powerful that we must be stopped specifically to save women from the R word, said YouTuber Cat Black, tweeting Rowling's comments. These people are not happy unless they're complaining about the same thing for the 5,000th time. I don't know why these people can't just get over this. This is like all haters on the internet. If you don't like someone, stop paying attention to them. Can we all just get get on board with that idea? Who in the chat is not in favor of can we all just get around the idea that if you don't like someone, stop paying attention to them. Stop talking about them. Stop stalking their Twitter. Stop making videos about them. It's really effing easy, guys. If you don't like someone, stop paying attention to them. And if you are paying attention to them, then there is something about you that likes that person. I was talking about this with Joshua this week because you guys, some of you know, I had a video made about me and it was bullshit lies and made up nonsense and things taken out of context. And I was saying to Joshua, I was like the guy, Mike Harlow has been, I'll fucking say his name. I don't really give a fuck. Mike Harlow and Carrie Smith have been obsessed with me for over a fucking year. And I said, I was like, Joshua, why don't they just leave me the F alone? And he's like, Carlin, there is a thin line between love and hate. They can't give you up. And I was like, I really want them to. Can we all just agree that if you don't like someone, don't pay attention to them? It's the same thing with J.K. Rowling. What I wouldn't give for people who hate me to stop paying attention to me. I'm cool, man. You go your separate way, I can go mine. Not everyone needs to like each other. Not everyone needs to respect each other's opinions. It's fine. It's me, not you. Come on. Dragonwater says, stop giving them your energy. Yeah, man. It's I don't understand. As long as I have to deal in this world where people are making videos and doing stuff and talking about J.K. Rowling incessantly, we can talk about it, but it's just I don't understand why Vice is writing the 73rd article about J.K. Rowling being a TERF. Why? And it doesn't say anything new. It's the same stuff over and over again. Trans women are facing a staggering violence and blah, blah, blah. They can't even walk down the street corner without getting assaulted. Compared to cisgender people, trans are 4 more times more likely than cisgender people to experience bad things. Every article is the same. This article isn't even about this thing. I bet you if we went back through Vice and we read other articles about J.K. Rowling, they would literally say the same thing. It's just oh, same article, let's paste J.K. Rowling's new tweet in it. Same article, let's paste a new tweet response in it. But it says exactly the same effing thing. It's these people don't even put any effort in, man. Yeah. Because they're completely creatively bankrupt, says Dragonwater. I think that is actually dead on. Man. But that's not the only J.K. Rowling story. I got one more. Hang on. In response to J.K. Rowling's newest tweet, 2 real-world Quidditch groups will change their name over J.K. Rowling's transphobia. You can't make this shit up. A sport that is not real, that involves flying around on broomsticks in make-believe land that J.K. Rowling literally invented, is so perturbed over J.K. Rowling pointing out that trans women are not the same as cis women, are changing their name over her transphobia. Dude. Yeah, Nat D, Quidditch. The 2 top real-world Harry Potter-inspired Quidditch organizations in the U.S. will seek to change their name in part over author J.K. Rowling's transphobic comments they announced this week. In a joint press release, U.S. Quidditch and Major League Quidditch, are these seriously real things? There are professional Quidditch teams. How much do Quidditch players make? Cited the push for gender equality, including an in-game rule that no more than 4 of the same gender can be on the same team, as a countermeasure to Rowling's anti-trans remarks. Both organizations felt it imperative to live up to the reputation in all aspects of their operations and believe this move is a step in the right direction. The two said other reasons for their rebrand include the desire to expand into different sponsorships and broadcast ventures, something that handicapped by Warner Brothers' ownership over the Quidditch trademark. The two groups will commission a survey for input on their new names. Quidditch is a fictional game in Harry Potter universe in which two teams aboard broomsticks try to get balls through the ring-shaped goalposts for points. A real-life version of the game incorporating rugby, dodgeball, and lacrosse was started in Vermont in 2015. Of course, it was in effing Vermont. That's like the most Vermont thing ever. I grew up in Vermont, for people who don't know. So the Quidditch organizations, Quidditch being a made-up effing fantasy game that started in J.K. Rowling's head, Quidditch professional organizations are changing the name of their made-up fantasy sport because they don't like the woman who invented the sport. Can't make this shit up, man. Can't make it up. Dragonwater said, there are some people who take their Hogwarts house seriously and call their political enemies Voldemort. I don't know if I want to live in this world anymore. But, guys, we're going to give you some hope. First off, I gotta get a new browser up for this. First off, Kamala Harris is pissed. And anytime Kamala Harris is pissed is a good day, so far as I'm concerned. Did anyone see this little broadcast? Okay, check this out. We're gonna get a new screen up because I want to get sound. I want to make sure we can all hear that. Oh God, I'm back. Sorry. That was my bad. I accidentally put my computer to sleep. I'm back. Sorry, wrong button. Could you guys hear me say shit as I was like exiting? I was like, no. It's like one of those things like, no, don't do it. Okay, I'm back. Let's watch Kamala Harris freaking out. My B. All right, here we go. Kamala Harris is mad about something. Basically, okay, let's just watch the clip. And then I'm going to analyze the clip as though there was a reality in which I was once in real life an executive coach and still occasionally do executive coaching. I'm going to analyze this clip through the eyes of being an executive coach and tell you what I would tell Kamala Harris about her performance in this clip. Let's watch. From the beginning.
So who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlemagne. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president. It's Joe Biden.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden. And I'm vice president. And my name is Kamala Harris. And the reality is, because we are in office, we do the things like the child tax credit, which is going to reduce Black child poverty by 50%, on track to do that. We do things that are about saying that our Department of Justice is going to do these investigations and require that we end chokeholds and have body cameras. It is the work of saying we're going to get lead out of pipes and...
Okay. I don't want to watch the rest of this because Kamala Harris is basically doing talking points. But number one point, can we all agree that Kamala Harris talks differently in some environments? Has different intonation? She does. But the thing I want to say is this. Like, did anyone in the first press where she was like, Joe Biden is the president and I am vice president and I am Kamala Harris? She was so defensive. This is someone who has so little self-confidence that she has to get, I'm Kamala Harris and I am the vice president. Dude, like, experienced leaders and leaders who feel like they deserve to be in the role that they are in Don't do that. Experienced leaders and people who feel like they are worthy of being a CEO or being a president or a vice president or any of these things, they don't go into an interview and they say, my name is Kamala Harris and I am the vice president and Joe Biden is the president. Like this is one of the most weak interviews I have ever seen in my life. Yes, exactly. VP imposter syndrome. She doesn't believe she should be in this role. Let's listen to the first part of this again. It's just so good. It's so good. Okay, let's listen again.
So who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlemagne.
Come
on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president. It's Joe Biden.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president. And my name is Kamala Harris.
and it's Joe Biden, and I'm the vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris. People who have self-confidence don't do that. She sounded like a teenager answering that. It's like I am the president of the what the fuck is it? The student council. I am the president of the student council. I will have you know. That's what she sounded like to me. She sounded not even the president. She sounded like the vice president of the student council in high school. That's what it sounded like to me. Yeah. I don't disagree with that, Annabelle. I don't disagree with that at all. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys that because I thought that clip was like really funny, but we are going to end on a good note. We're going to end on something better. I'm going to get another clip in here real quick. You guys want to see an awesome school board speech? Let's do an awesome school board speech. This was a school board speech from in New Hampshire, obviously. This guy, Bruce Fenton, gets the shout out of the week. I've been told I need to end shows on a positive note. And so we're going to watch an amazing school board speech. You guys know how I feel about school boards. They have their usefulness, I suppose. Dragonwater said Kamala sounds like the hall monitor. She did sound like the hall monitor, did she? She did. And Jenny's getting inky with it says she mentioned herself and office. Survey no purpose to the question and sounds like Biden missing the cues in the teleprompter. Awkward. It was so awkward. It's so bad. It was so bad. But we're going to end on a high note. And guys, just as a reminder, after Effed Up News is done today, I will be doing a locals exclusive stream in kb.locals.com. Bing. We also have it in the ticker. Make sure you sign up. You don't have to pay to join or anything. The stream will be available for everyone, but I will be doing a locals exclusive stream right after this at 6:30-ish, give or take. But we're going to wrap up today on a good note, and we're going to watch an awesome school board speech that I just really enjoyed this morning. Let's enjoy.
Called Animal Farm, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, by George Orwell. And there's a great line in there. It says, all animals are created equally. Some animals are more equal than others. I got a great illustration of that right here. Here we have Representative Rosemary Rung, who's a big proponent of your unions and she's against the school vouchers. Here she is without a mask with Democrat Senator Cory Booker on Sunday. Here's a union leader, Colin Tiernan, at a Democrat gala on Sunday, no mask. Here's Representative Morris Sullivan, no mask. Here's Representative Chris Pappas right down the street, no mask. Here's one of the leaders of the Party of Official Science, Jean Shaheen, no mask. It comes closer to home now. Brian Cisnero on November 17th, somebody told me, I'm not sure, but they said you had no mask at the UNH football game. A football game that had thousands and thousands of people with no mask. And Dr. Morse, just this morning in your office, 11:15 a.m., person came into the office with no mask and witnessed one of your employees in the second office, in the office with no mask. I could go on. Would you like me to go on? Oh, I did have just a point of order clarification for the chair. A couple of meetings ago, you informed me that if I remove my mask, I'd be removed by force by armed men. Is that order still in effect?
Public comment is not a time for dialogue with the board.
But I'm asking for a point of order. I'm just trying to understand your rules. They seem very confusing to me.
To make a point of order, you actually have to be a member of the board.
Well, I'm trying to find out the rules. I'm also wondering if I had a COVID test in hand and I remove my mask, can I do the same thing that Dr. Morse's employee can do or that Jean Shaheen can do? Or will you have me removed by force? Maybe not all animals are equal.
All right, guys. I know the volume was a little soft on that, and I apologize. I'm working with what Twitter gave me. But I thought that speech was awesome. Shout out to Bruce Fenton for giving a great school board speech. You guys can go find him on Twitter if you want to watch it and futz with the volume on your own computer. But I thought that was a really great speech. And what I loved about it is he's like so mild-mannered. He's so cool. And it's like sometimes you don't need to be like a bull in the china shop like I am. Sometimes you can just be like a normal guy and come in and be like, you know, here's a whole bunch of hypocrisy. And are you going to arrest me if I take off this mask like all these other people did? So I just thought it was a great example of like a really, really, really good speech. All right, guys, that's all we have for Effed Up News of this week. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you mount that like button on the way out the door. Please make sure you join me in Locals for a post-stream Locals exclusive follow-up stream. We're going to be talking today about just mindset and perspective. I'm going to talk a little bit about why we should always be happy for people who have successes, things like that. It's going to be more of a little bit of a laid back stream. We're not going to do news. We're going to talk about life stuff and how to be happy and stuff like that. But if you want to support the work I'm doing, the very best thing you can do is become a supporter in Locals. Again, you don't have to become a supporter today just to watch the follow-up stream. It's just exclusive to Locals. But if you do want to help me out, please make sure you become a member at $5 a month. You can do it for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can make a one-time gift. This support helps me to keep doing the work I'm doing. Without supporters in my Locals community, I wouldn't be able to do this. I'd have to go get a real job again. And, you know, I would rather spend time talking about the news and helping you guys understand critical race theory and doing the mindset stuff in Locals and hanging out with my Locals and doing all the great things we're going to do together in 2022. I'm really excited about it. Locals is going to be the place to be in 2022. I can't wait. So please make sure you head over to Locals and we'll do our post follow-up stream in a few minutes. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, get a glass of water, and then we're going to do our stream there. But guys, we do this every Sunday, Effed Up News of the Week at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Please make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're watching on and turn on notifications and all that great stuff. That's all we have for right now. We'll see you soon.